Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This session is called A Marketer's Tale, Top Challenges Solved with Marketing Automation. My name is Steve Mooney. I'm with Salesforce.com. I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships, and I'm very happy today to be introducing Eloqua. Eloqua is one of our oldest, most trusted, and most strategic partners at Salesforce.com. They're one of the most established in the industry. In fact, their industry-leading lead scoring, lead nurturing, and prospect profiler has given our customers powerful sales insight within their own Salesforce.com instance. In fact, as a company, we've chosen Eloqua to be more closely aligned with us in our own sales efforts because of their enterprise-scale marketing automation abilities and their proven ability to make our joint customers more successful in the cloud. Now I have the honor to introduce Steve Woods, the CTO and co-founder of Eloqua and the author of the Amazon.com bestseller, Digital Body Language. Steve pioneered some of the leading-edge concepts of tracking and managing prospect behavior online and measuring it against purchase decisions. We're lucky to hear from Steve today, and I'd like you now to join me in welcoming Steve to the podium.
Thanks, Steve. It's fantastic to be here. I love talking with marketers because it's such an interesting time in the world of marketing. It is really changing. Marketing is going digital. Very profound statement, I know. Work with me. There's more to it than that. When things go digital, you always see two very interesting phases to that digitization. If you look, for example, at music, right, it goes digital. And we go from LPs to CD-ROMs. But if you look at the world of music, it doesn't really change that much in that first phase of digitization. It's still the same model of how an album gets conceptualized and created and marketed and sold. And then the second phase happens, and you start looking at, now that it's digital, distribution can be free. And you can start challenging a lot of the underlying concepts of how music is to be addressed as an area of the world. And we end up with the iTunes model, where essentially the concept of an album has fundamentally gone away. You see the same thing in knowledge, for example. It goes digital. We go from Britannica to Encarta, and yeah, there's some sounds and some videos. It's on CD-ROM. It's digital. But it's not until that digitization gives us the opportunity to challenge how that knowledge is created and disseminated that we end up on the second phase. We realize that content creation can be decentralized, and we end up with the Wikipedia model of encyclopedias of knowledge, which has completely changed that centralized construct that we lived with in both Britannica and Encarta. Well, that's the kind of transition that's happening in marketing today. We go, in the first phase of digitization, we go from batch, centralized, outbound, not highly differentiated campaigns using television, using print, using email, or sorry, using television, print, and radio, to batch, centralized, not highly differentiated outbound campaigns using email and landing pages. It's gone digital. We haven't really challenged how we think of being marketers. What we're in right now, though, is the second phase of that, where a lot of the underlying concepts of what it means to be a marketer are completely being challenged. Because information, which is the currency of us as marketers, that's gone digital and that's freely available. And that challenges a lot of the paradigms that we've held dear. If you look at this, what's going on here? So information's become free. We all know this. If we want information on a product, on a service, on an idea, we go to Google, we go online, we go to news sites, we go to vendor sites, we go to competitor sites. We can get the information that we want. It's indexed, it's tagged, it's categorized using social networks, social bookmarking. And what that means is that your sales team is not a necessary conduit. And that's a fundamental change. If you look at what sales did before the internet, right? You've got a sales team and they go and meet with potential buyers in the bars, in the boardrooms, on the golf course, and they're exchanging information. They're telling those potential buyers a little bit about your products and services. And what they're able to do, if they're really good salespeople, is understand the body language of those potential buyers. Who's smiling, who's leaning forward, who's engaged in the conversation, who's not bought in, who's frowning, who's got their arms crossed, who's pushed back from the table. And that body language gave your salespeople insights. It gave them an understanding of who was ready to move forward in the buying process and who was not. And the challenge now, if sales is no longer the information conduit, they're not able to read that body language. And they're not able to understand who is ready to move forward and who's not. So the challenge, as we get that information online, the challenge of reading that body language falls to us as marketers, who have to read the digital body language of buyers and use that to understand which sales processes to move forward and which not. So I always get the question, okay, great theoretical concept, wonderful, that's fun. What on earth are you talking about? What is digital body language? Well, what I mean by digital body language is the encapsulation of all of that online behavior. Where has the person been on your website? What have they searched for? Where have they come in from? Have they come in from LinkedIn or from a blog or from Google or from Twitter? What have they done? What emails have they opened and clicked on? And that overall activity allows you as a marketer to understand that individual and understand what they're interested in. And with that, you can do four main things. With that digital body language as the core, that overall online picture of their behavior, you can change how you think about campaigning. No longer are we thinking about outbound campaigns to a essentially undifferentiated audience, maybe segmented by demographics. You can understand where an individual is in their buying process and campaign accordingly. Secondly, you can use that digital body language to understand when a person is ready to start talking about terms, conditions, pricings, and contracts, and get them through lead scoring over to your sales team. We can only do this, of course, if we start taking our data as marketers a little bit more seriously, because all of our data is what we build that foundation of rules on. All of our segmentation, our personalization, our lead scoring, our lead routing, our analytics is all built on a foundation of data, and the speakers I'm here with today will talk a lot about that. And when we've done this, this is where it gets really interesting. For the first time as marketers, we can start to wrap an analytics picture around an entire end-to-end buying process, because we have that digital body language to give us an understanding of where each individual is in their own buying process. So I'm really honored to present today with two speakers who are living and breathing this. I can talk theoretically about it at great length, but I want you to hear it from people who are really tackling these challenges and engaging with marketing in a completely new way. First up, I've got Alex Yevelev. Very interesting background as a marketer. Graduated from the Haas School at Berkeley and immediately went into the crucible of all marketing, statistical analytics at Cornerstone, doing advanced research. Alex is a brilliant data guy. He understands numbers, he understands process, he understands statistics, and when he went to Bella Pictures, he was able to bring that understanding and that analytics to their overall selling and marketing process, and took what was a creative engine and turned it into an analytical machine. So with that, I'll turn it over to Alex, who will talk to you a little bit about the Bella Pictures story.
Thank you, Steve. All right, so as Steve mentioned, I am from Bella Pictures, and we are a national wedding photography company and video, and we service 36 major U.S. metro markets where we provide professional wedding photography and video services. We have about 150 people on board, and a large portion of those are a field sales team. And we also have 18 inside sales reps whose role it is to actually set up the appointments and funnel them to the outside sales reps. Our marketing team is only 5 people, and we drive about 10,000 inquiries every month into the top of the funnel. And what I'm going to talk about specifically today is how the data collection and scoring and seamless integration between Eloqua and Salesforce has really empowered us to be a lot more precise about the types of leads that we drive into the inside sales funnel, and to help them really prioritize how they spend their time and to help our business partners succeed. So before I dive into the really fun stuff, let me just give you a quick overview of Bella Pictures. I don't know if you guys knew that there was a national wedding photography company out there. But just by a show of hands, how many of you are married? And keep your hand up if you hired a professional photographer or videographer for your wedding. Okay? And keep your hand up if you were one of those couples that started the slow dance for your first dance, and then in the middle the song changed and it became a rap song and you did this. Nobody, huh? Oh, you gentlemen over there. No, nobody's raising their hand. Okay, so if you hired a photographer or videographer, you probably hired either an individual or a small studio, right? And these folks have to basically own their entire business process from A to Z. So they market to you, they sell to you, they shoot your wedding, they do the post-production, they do the album design, then they deliver your album and prints in time for Christmas, right? So what Bella Pictures does is we actually disaggregate that entire process. So we split it up into its component parts, and we have expert teams that handle each piece. So we have an expert marketing team, of course. We have an expert sales team. We have a network of photographers around the country that shoot for us. And then we have a team that does post-production and album design and so on. So by disaggregating the process in that way, we've really been able to scale, and we've shot thousands and thousands of weddings in the last 6 years that we've been around. So in order to scale, we've really had to diversify the number of lead channels that we have. So when we started, we just brought in leads through a couple of email vendors, as well as a couple of the major wedding wedding portals like the Knot. And as we grew, we started to bring in leads through paid search, started to focus on organic search, started to drive leads through wedding local directories like Wedding Wire, you may have heard of, as well as, of course, as social networking like Facebook and MySpace, and so on. And as we started to bring in all these leads, the question was, how do we effectively prioritize these leads and put them into the sales funnel? So we had a scoring system in place, and we were leveraging Eloqua for a long time, but the scoring that we had was pretty rudimentary. So we were only really scoring people when they came to our site and filled out a form. So we would evaluate them at that point, and then they would get a lead score, and that would be their lead score most likely for the rest of their life. And so we realized that we needed to get a lot more granular and a lot smarter about the way that we did this. And we also realized that very conveniently we had been, because we have Eloqua scripts on our site, we had been harvesting a lot of this digital body language that Steve was talking about in terms of collecting the user behavior on our site and the way that they interacted with our marketing programs. So in addition to collecting the lead data from people when they filled out our lead forms, we had also been collecting data from people as they visited our website, the number of times they hit the site, how recently they hit the site. We were able to track how they interacted with our lead nurturing emails, so if they clicked through on some of the calls to action in those emails. And so we were gathering both this really hard kind of qualifying data as well as this digital body language data together. And so what we did was we took those two sets of data and we said, we bet that there are variables in this data that are going to be predictors of how effectively our sales team is able to set appointments with these leads, right? And so our hypothesis was that we could identify a set of variables that both positively and negatively influence the propensity of a lead to turn into an appointment. And so we looked at some of these variables. We looked at the data that was really clean data for us. And we looked at variables that both could contribute positively, so something like somebody had an appropriate wedding budget, or somebody visited our site numerous times, but we also looked at things that could contribute negatively. For example, somebody gave us a fake email address, or somebody unsubscribed from our marketing communications. We try to keep the set of variables pretty tight for this first pass of redoing our lead scoring, because we didn't want to confound the results, and we really wanted to focus on the things that came in for us as clean data. So we ran the model, and here's some of the things that it spit out. And some of these things are pretty intuitive when you look at them, but to have the quantitative basis to be able to say, yes, these things really affect the quality of our leads and will help us prioritize our leads was really important. So on the qualification side, important is, do you have a wedding date, right? People shop for wedding photography and other wedding services before they have a date, because you might get proposed to and then you're really excited and you go on the web and you start looking at bridal magazines and you start checking things out, but until you have a venue, right, you're not going to have your wedding date set. So whether or not they had a wedding date was really important. Their wedding budget, of course, was also really important. Whether or not they had chosen a venue, what we call lead received, which is the type of form that the user filled out. So they might have filled out a sweepstakes form with us, or they might have filled out a form on one of our paid search landing pages, and the time to wedding. So how far out are they from that wedding date? Some of the variables that concerned user interest were, did they unsubscribe from our marketing communications? Did they request an appointment with us right away when they filled out a form? A bounce back, which is, again, that bad email address. Did they fill out multiple forms? Did they visit the website numerous times? And if so, how recently did they hit the website? Did they click through on the calls to action in our lead nurturing email? And how long have they been on our lead nurturing list? So all of these things we found really mattered, both positively and negatively. So we launched the program back in June, and we've definitely had time to see some results. So what does that look like? This graph shows you on the left-hand side the lead scoring world that we lived in before we launched the program. And the graph on the right-hand side shows you the lead scoring results since we launched the program. And just to explain, each of those green bars signifies a bucket of a certain lead score. So you can see on the left-hand side there's a bunch of 40s, and there's a bunch of 60s, and a bunch of 80s, and a bunch of 100s. And you can see that on the left-hand side, these scores are really, really static, right? Because as I mentioned before, the only time we were scoring people is when they would fill out that form on our site, and we as the marketing team would say, yes, success, we got a conversion, somebody filled out the form, and we would score them. What's happening in the new world is that because we have so many more dynamic variables on which we're evaluating people, people are getting scored all the time. So in the previous world, on average, a customer would fill out less than 2 forms in their entire lifetime as a lead with us. I said a customer as a lead, sorry. A person would fill out, on average, 2 forms. And in the current world, they're constantly getting rescored. So whether they take an action on our website or they don't take an action, they're getting, at a minimum, rescored every single week, because if they haven't visited our site, that just means they're less interested. We're going to score them down. If they visited our site and if they filled out another form, they're more interested. We're going to score them up, and it continues to fluctuate. And what this fluctuation means is that this churn is constantly surfacing the most valuable leads up for the inside sales team on their call lists. Right? So this is kind of the before world, and this is what analyzing those variables and having them influence our lead scoring model has allowed us to have. So this is nice, but what are the real results? The hypothesis, if you remember, was that we could identify variables that would accurately predict whether a lead has the propensity to become an appointment more effectively than another lead. So here are the results. And let me explain this graph really quickly. So on the left-hand side, you've got the lead score, and it's going from basically 0 to 100 or so. And then on the x-axis, you have the appointment set rate, which is just the number of appointments that our inside sales team set, divided by the total number of leads. And in the middle, and the color density of each bar shows you the number of records that are contained in each bucket by lead score. What you can see there, the area circled in red, that's where the majority of our leads were falling, between the 40 and 70 lead score. And you can see that within that range, for every 10 points of score, appointment set rate doubled. And so what you can see in that graph, and these are our actual results since we launched the program in the summer, is that there's a really nice relationship that really validates our hypothesis that says the higher the lead score, the more likely this person is to set an appointment. So what that enables you to do then is to go to your inside sales team and say, hey guys, guess what? We figured it out. We're going to prioritize your call list based on these lead scores, and you guys are always going to be calling the most lucrative opportunities. So now that we were able to have that conversation, we really need to find a way to make the data and the information digestible for the sales team. So what's nice about that is that we have this handy-dandy Salesforce dashboard that the inside sales team can actually look at when they're talking to a lead. And this is a nice dossier that they have, which provides them all the necessary information they need in order to be able to evaluate the person and to speak with them intelligently. We don't throw a lot of stuff in there that they can't use, but we do throw things in there that are useful for them, like how recently somebody's visited the site, what their budget is, what their, if you could see on the left-hand side there, what was their original score when they were first scored, and what is their current score. In other words, that allows you to say, as an inside salesperson, when they first came in, they were this interested, and as of late, they are this interested, right? So you can actually see that trajectory. And we see some other relevant information that they can use to sort of chit-chat with the lead and figure out what their needs are. And then another nice thing that Steve mentioned is that we're able to actually use Eloqua to parse out the user's search keyword that they entered when they found us through Google or Yahoo or MSN. And we're able to pass that information into Eloqua and then into Salesforce, and that keyword actually surfaces for the inside sales rep in the dashboard. That's not currently part of our lead scoring model, but we're definitely going to put it in there. So what are the key takeaways for us? Well, number one, we've got to use automation to improve workflows. So if you're an individual photographer and you're dealing with hundreds and thousands of images on a regular basis, let's say you shoot 50 weddings a year, there is no way that you could scale your business or stay sane, for that matter, unless you have a batch process that resizes all of your images, that turns all your color images to black and white images, that renumbers all your images. There's no way, right? So as marketers, we have to think about our process in the exact same way. We have to automate our workflow so that we can be successful and so that we can scale. So this, the way that Eloqua beautifully captures the data and then does our lead scoring and then feeds that information seamlessly through to Salesforce allows us that automation and allows us to scale in that way. Number two, as marketers, we have a lot of knowledge and we have a lot of things that we walk around with in our heads every single day that matter to us that probably don't matter to your sales team. So when you think about that knowledge transfer, make it easy for the sales team to digest the data that you're feeding them. Give them the stuff that empowers them to succeed, that's actionable for them. Have that conversation with them about what they want. Now, don't throw the whole kitchen sink at them. Thirdly, you've got to continuously monitor and measure results in order to impact performance. So I'm sure all of you have very tight reporting and tracking and everything else. You've got to have that in place, and you've got to keep clean data in order to be able to make these kinds of leaps in your productivity. So set up those dashboards, set up those reports, and make sure that you are squeezing the most that you can out of your data and that you're surfacing that data to the right people. And finally, continue to innovate. So we're not going to rest on our laurels as far as this lead scoring program is concerned. We definitely have come a long way, and we're very proud of it. But we're going to continue to try to refine it. So an example of that is that search keyword that I mentioned previously. If we have thousands and thousands of leads coming in through paid search on a regular basis, let's find out what those people were searching for, and let's see if the search keyword that they entered is something that can accurately predict their propensity to become an appointment. Also, instead of just on a broad level saying, all right, we know that people hit the website this many times and we know they came in last week, well, what are they actually consuming on our website, right? Eloqua allows you to do content tagging so that you can tag your pages on your site, what are they about, and then report on what are your people actually viewing on your site. And then use that variable also as something that can influence your lead scoring and predict how accurately these, what the propensity for these people to efficiently continue down the funnel. And I think that's it.
Great. Thanks, Alex. That was fantastic. I love that story. I love seeing marketing's ability to truly contribute to revenue and drive and predict that revenue, which leads to the next presenter I'm honored to present, both a Marquee Award winner very recently and now nominated for an Appy Award. We'll see tomorrow if he wins. Nicola Draga is comes at marketing from a very interesting angle. He used to run his own business, Ipanto, so from there, he was able to see how marketing could contribute to revenue and in fact, how it might not be seen as contributing to revenue. So when he became the head of marketing for Infoblox, he struck out from the beginning to design a very different relationship, to the point that when they're doing their financial planning, he's able to have a conversation with the CEO about where do we need revenue to go and where will we invest in that revenue in order to drive it. Forward prediction of revenue. Very challenging for marketing to come to that level of predictability. So I'm thrilled to be able to have Nicholas speak with us today and talk about how he's built that engine for driving revenue at Infoblox. Nicola?
Thank you. Hello. Infoblox. So we are providing solution which deliver DNS, DHCP, and IP address management. We are in the networking space. We have 270 employees. We sell worldwide. We are a B2B business. Size of the marketing organization, 20 people. We use Eloqua team and Salesforce.com. So what we're going to discuss now is how we can work using marketing automation to predict revenue, but also sales enablement, sales and marketing alignment. You know, there are some issues between the sales team and the marketing team. We do not get on well all the time. So how we can a little bit connect the dot. So the first question was for me is, how do we see ourselves? And so we are, as marketer, we are cool and we are amazing. Everybody would agree, I would think. We are cool. I wear pink shirt. I think it's cool. We invested into Eloqua and Salesforce. You wear pink shirt as well, by the way. We think it's cool. And we are amazing. We deliver some amazing mailers, some amazing webinars, and some amazing events. The question is, what does the sales team think? Okay, what do they think about us? And it's a little bit different. We are weird. We are super weird. We talk about organic search, implicit score, lead nurturing, SQL, SAL, CTR. I'm the one on the left, by the way. And they don't get it. It's like another language. After we had Eloqua for, I think, a year, a little bit more than a year. So a year ago was the Eloqua Summit. I came back all excited, and we implemented lead scoring, just like what Alex went through. Lead scoring, lead nurturing. I had a meeting with my inside sales team saying, look, we have implicit score, explicit score. You're going to increase the number of meetings you're going to set up. And they look at me saying, are you on drug? Or what are you talking about? And then I went to my VP of sales, okay, forget, and they will understand with the time. I went to my VP of sales and said, okay, we just acquired a list. We did a lead nurturing program. We think we're going to get something like 1,000 MQL, marketing qualified leads. We should, within like 60, 90 days, grow our pipeline by $1 million. And it was kind of the same. You look at me and say, you're like all excited, you're funny, you're French, so go back to your cube. I don't get it. So we need to work on this. There is really an issue. So I've been thinking, I said, that's not possible. And I found a word where we use the same one, which is close business. Sales team is closing business. Marketing thinks they help closing business. And so when we close those big deals, this $1 million deal, and we go through the deal analysis, and when the marketing guy come and say, okay, I checked the opportunity in Salesforce, and actually this guy come from a freeware campaign and went through a couple of white paper, webinar, and this is how we think we close the deal, or we help you guys to close the deal. The sales guy will say, look, you're super nice, but I knew Joe Schmo from like 2 years. You haven't done anything. I'm not the only one. So we are not allowed to use it, and that's a shame, actually. So the current challenge is really this gap between the marketing waterfall. Who is used to the marketing waterfall? You know, inquiries, MQL, SAL. Everybody's used to this? Yeah, okay. So it's a gap between the way marketing speak, you know, inquiries, MQL, SAL, SQL, close, and sales pipeline. Sales pipeline is tangible. It is tied to revenue, dollar. We are more of an anecdote. You know, we deliver leads. We deliver good leads. It's a kind of buy one, get one free. We need to be more tangible. So the big question is marketing support to grow the pipeline and marketing contribution to revenue. So what we did, like Alex was explaining, is measure everything. If you don't talk number, you will never be able to exchange with your CFO, CEO, or VP of sales. This will not work. So in my organization, we go from prospect to leads, leads to meetings, opportunity created, opportunity won. And we have 3 key metrics. The first one is the sales cycle. Sales cycle from a net new lead to a converted lead to an opportunity. This information is available in Salesforce. You have it. Creation date for the leads, converted date for the opportunity. And then the second part of the sales cycle is opportunity created to opportunity close won. You have it in Salesforce as well. When you close business, there is a field called age. You can report on it easily. And by the way, salespeople tend to forget that this is the first part, from net new leads to converted opportunity. You need to work on both angles, because when you're going to do your marketing budget, what you see here is that whatever activity you're going to do for lead gen now will pay off within 210 days. And people sometimes tend to say, okay, our average sales cycle is 110 days. This is wrong. You need to start from the net new leads creation date for your info. That's just a quick tip. The second one is the conversion rate. So the conversion rate is from 100 leads, how many meetings do I create? So this is what Bella Picture is measuring as well. Number of opportunities that I create, and number of opportunities I'm going to win. So it means, in our case, that's not our actual number, by the way, just for everybody. I'm not allowed to give you my number. But ballpark with this, you will find your place. And so it means, like, from 100 leads, we're going to close 2.5 business. So what you want to do, you don't want your inside sales team just to call anywhere. You want them to save time. You want them to prioritize, because you want them to be successful, to close as much business as they can. The third ratio is the marketing return on invest. Return on invest is how much a lead costs you versus how much a meeting costs you. It's $150, so it's based on conversion. So if you have 100 leads, which cost you $30 a lead, it means for 20 meetings, it will cost you $150 a meeting. Opportunity created to opportunity close won. When you have those 3 metrics, you can measure everything, and you can start to play. For your information, everybody here at Salesforce, this is based on 4 Salesforce reports. Nothing fancy, nothing kind of crazy. It's 4 reports in Salesforce. Super easy. And what we do is, again, all this information is available in Salesforce. And what we do is that we are able to work based on lead source and do deep dive. Okay, for the lead coming from my website, what is the sales cycle for net new leads to created opportunities, and from created opportunities to close one? We are able to track it from event, from trade show, content syndication, website, and any organic search and paid search. And we report on this every month, meaning I follow up every day, but we really report on it every month, and it allows us to understand where, meaning our business cycle and how it works. With those kind of information, for example, if you start doing a little bit of deep dive analysis, we learned that if somebody is coming from search paid, he will convert within 40 days to a created opportunity, not 100 days anymore. So it will affect the lead scoring that Alex was going through. If it comes from search organic, it's 60 days. And this is where we are getting our information, and we are able to define better lead scoring. The second part, so measure everything, it's really a key. Translate. So we have inquiries, MQL, SAL, SQL, close one business. In my organization, I do not talk this language, I don't understand, so I stick to prospect, leads, meetings, opportunity created, opportunity won. I have my MQL, SAL, SQL in the system, but it is hidden and the sales guy cannot see it. And align, yeah, because they don't care. And I understand, actually. And align. Align means we have 3 major phases: awareness, consideration, and preference. With this, we are able to understand marketing campaign impact. We know that for the awareness, this is based on the marketing return on invest report in Salesforce. It's a campaign report, sorry. So we are able to understand in the awareness phase that organic search is something really big for us, such as freeware as well. We get a huge visibility on this, and the conversion is just like crazy. Normally, our conversion rate from our websites, this is our official number, it's 2.15%. For 100 visitors we get on our website, 2.15 will convert to net new leads. For freeware, it's 4%. Crazy. Huge, huge conversion rate. Then phase 2 consideration events. We do lots of events with our partner. So this is something big for us before the meeting convert to an opportunity. And after, it's our brand and the way people are testing the product. When you do this, you really have a full picture of your business, the sales cycles, the marketing impact, and you can start to play. It's really, without this, I'll say, use whatever you have. I have lots of feedback saying, yeah, but my data in Salesforce are not clean. We don't care. Use it as a trend. Try to trend your business. We are not discussing 11% versus 12%. We are trying to understand what are the dynamics of our business and how does it convert and how marketing can influence the business. Because what we want to do at the end when we do our campaign is we want either to reduce the sales cycle or to increase the pipeline and the revenue. That's the only objective. Sending email, I'm saying at the end, I don't care. If there are other ways to do this, I'll do it. At the end, I want to impact the business. And when you have, I'm going to take you another example, when you have those kind of metrics in place, again, for report in Salesforce, I know that if I increase my website traffic by 10%, my revenue will increase by 7%. And you can start, now you're talking, you can start discussing with your CFO, CEO, VP of sales, and try to start some exchange some information and talk the same language. So I'm going to go through two case studies. So how we did it with Eloqua and Salesforce. Lead scoring and lead nurturing. We set up a lead scoring system coupled to a lead nurturing program. I'm not going to go through details on lead scoring, lead nurturing. Lead scoring, Alex covered it, and I think for lead nurturing there might be some other session. So at the end we had a marketing score, an interest level, and the last one is an interest score. That's great, but that's another language for my sales guys. They don't get it. So we educated them and made it simple to use. Kind of 0, 1, black, white thingy. Hot lead. You need to follow up on hot leads. That's all you need to do. But it works. At the end, they listen. Don't bother about those marketing score. Some fields that are not even available for them. They don't see those. But hot leads, that's all I want you to do. And what we did is that we set up a view in Salesforce, my hot leads. This one is also easy to understand. And a report in Salesforce, my hot lead as well, same name. They don't get lost. And so we are measuring, I have buy-in from their manager, that there is no open hot lead in our system. And they are tracking it like hell. And not only we set up this kind of easy-to-use system, but we measure conversion rate through each step of the sales cycle. It's useless to set up any lead nurturing, lead scoring, meaning anything if you cannot measure. This is what we do a lot. If you cannot measure, you should just stop, meaning just sending an email and say the open rate is this and the click-through rate is that. That's great, but does not help really for business purposes. You need to be able to tie to pipeline and to revenue, meaning this is what we do. We try to do in our business. So remember, we have the average conversion from 100 leads to 10 opportunities to 2.5 opportunities closed won. And by measuring this information, we were able to see how we were performing on hot leads versus cold leads. And what we learned quickly is that from 100 leads, the guy were closing 4.1, that's not the right number either, but give you an idea, 4.1 opportunities. And if I had one guy focusing only on cold leads, he will close 0.3 opportunities. If you think that every opportunity is $1 million, we're talking 2.5 million versus 4.1 million versus 300K. My issue today is I'm not able to deliver enough hot leads to be able to do those $4.1 million per head. Working on it and thinking and tuning and trying to get more visibility to increase this. But if you think about it, your inside sales team and your outside sales team, they work 5 days a week. They don't work like 24 hours a day. So you need to find a way using lead scoring and lead nurturing to save them time and to prioritize their time. So this was a way as well to validate proper scoring for hot leads. You know, there is a lot of an education process with my exec to say this stuff, meaning marketing automation, is not only about alien, it does work, meaning we need to consider this stuff. And by being able to show metrics, it takes time, people understand, and after they buy in and you get support. Because you need support, otherwise you feel a little bit alone and you cannot improve your scoring system. That's one data point. From another angle, again, as we love to measure everything, we have a CMO dashboard where we measure per workday, number of meetings created, number of opportunity created, number of opportunity closed won. So again, I work based on my 4 reports in Salesforce, and at the end I use Excel, like everybody. And these are a number. So for example, in Q1, we set up 2.64 meetings per workday per ODR. So we implemented our lead scoring and lead nurturing on Q2, end of Q2. What we saw quickly is that on Q3 we were able to step up and set up more meetings per workday per ODR and tie to it more opportunity, which was a great sign. But at the end, as you can see, the opportunity closed one kind of flat. Yeah. So we had, sorry, I forgot this one. We have a tangible marketing result. You can go back and say, hey, we increased pipeline by 15%. We did something which helped you guys. The second one is we had to wait Q4 to see if yes, no, we were able to increase opportunity close one as well. And it did work. So not only were we stable on meeting created versus opportunity created, but we were affecting the revenue, which was great. And why did we have to wait a quarter? Never forget, whatever you do, you have your sales cycle. And whatever data you are capturing, it's going to take time. So you need to learn, to wait, and consider the sales cycle before making any conclusion. So we were able to come back and say, hey, not only we increase the number of opportunity created, but actually it turned to be more revenue for the company, which is good. But we are marketing geek, meaning when last week or 2 weeks ago, there was the Eloqua user conference, the Eloqua summit. So it was all exciting because everybody understands this stuff and we get all excited and do some kind of crazy stuff. And actually we need to be geek. What Alex, for example, was explaining at the end of his presentation, one of his key takeaways is innovate. Just try, so innovate, experiment, try to find some new stuff. B2B, online B2B marketing is kind of new for me, and you need to learn by discussing with your peer what they are doing, testing, and seeing if yes, no, it works. So I have an experiment currently running. So this is an opportunity in Salesforce, opportunity owner myself, account name Dracalan, my company, opportunity name, and on the top right there is a close date. This is what every sales guy put in Salesforce. He said, okay, this deal, I have a feeling I'm going to close it like kind of at the end of the year. And we added 2 fields on the marketing side. Those fields are only available to the sales manager, not to the sales guy. Those 2 fields are estimated closure rate and estimated close date. The estimated closure rate is based on type of account. Is it a new account versus an existing account? Is based on our lead scoring system. Is it a hot lead versus a cold lead? And it's based on the lead source as well. Does it come from a website? Does it come from an event, a trade show, blah, blah, blah? And at the end, I have number ranging from 5% to 65%. And again, here, it's not a game about 5 or 6 or 65 or 67%. It's just getting ballpark and an idea about, based on average and based on what we learned, based on the information we have available in Salesforce, we are able to put together this number. Estimated close date is the same story. It's based on the type, new account versus existing account, based on the source and based on the average sales cycle, we were able to put this date together. As of today, it's an experiment. So we've been testing it for 6 weeks, I think. It still needs, meaning to go on for another 2 months before I get feedback from my sales organization and see what they think. But don't hesitate to test, to have fun, to innovate, to do some experiment, because this is the way we learn. And by exchanging with my peer as well, I'm learning a lot about what they're doing and how I can improve the system we are in place. Yeah, we will have Q&A. Sorry?
So you're trying to determine and maybe a more...
So I don't want to replace the sales guy. What I try to do is just give a little bit more insight. Say, okay, based on metrics and marketing data, I give you this, do whatever you want with it. If you don't want to use it, you don't use it. That's your issue. Most of the time I try to find a champion, at least one guy using it, and thinks that he got success with it. So I don't try to replace the close date. I just give another data point. Saying,
So you're not going to use it for forecasting?
No, I'm not on this. This is why we have the experiment running, and it's going to take more time before going to forecasting. So it's a kind of marketing too difficult for me, of sales pipeline from another country. Key takeaway, measure marketing investment. I think that's one of the, that's big. Measure everything. Why sending email is useless if you cannot measure the impact, whatever, meaning first define an objective and after measure according to your objective, but we need to, if I put some more money to, if I give some more money to Google for search paid, I know that it's going to grow my pipeline and my revenue. But so measure everything. That's really the key. Sales cycle, conversion rate, and cost marketing return on invest. And just use it as a trend as of today. I can tell you for sure the information is available in Salesforce. You have Salesforce, it is there. It's just up to you to extract it and use it and define a trend. Do not wait like your team to update, your sales team to update everything. They will never do it. Make it simple and educate. Make it simple, as I told you, in my organization, MQL, SQL, it's another language, they don't get it. And every time we implement something, we try really to make it simple, like the hot lead. Yes, no. Super easy, everybody understand. It will save you time in the education. Educate, spend time training. I have my CMO dashboard. It took me, so I started to deliver it end of December, I think. To our exec. It took me 9 months for people to buy in. I don't have like 100% buy-in, but like sending it on a weekly basis and having face-to-face meeting with my CEO, with my CFO, asking for his feedback. What do you think? Do you think it makes sense, those conversion rate, or you think it's just like make no sense? And just trying to work on this education. It's a long process. Another recommendation would be start now because it's going to take time. And impact sales cycle and company revenue. Every time, marketing dollars should be tied to reduce the sales cycle and increase company revenue. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Nicholas. That was fantastic. So we do have some time for questions, which is great. If you found Nicholas's talk good, I believe speaking at tomorrow at 12:30 and doing a more dedicated session on getting deeper into this if you have any peers that would also find it interesting. So please go for that. So open it up for questions. We do bribe for questions here at Eloqua, so we've got Erica at the back bringing around books for anyone with a good question. And please, if you're asking a question, there's a mic in the aisle. Even if you have a booming voice, it's more for recording purposes than anything. So please join us at the mic, and Nicholas and Alex would be glad to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
I have just a question with regards to, did Eloqua actually work with them in defining the software to do that? And how much, do you need a dedicated full-time person to do the measurements and analysis of the data, and for how long?
It's a great question. Maybe I'll turn it over to Alex and Nicholas to talk about resources and people.
Sure. So in terms of the first part of your question was did Eloqua work with us to help us set this up? Yeah, Eloqua has great customer support, and they're able to pretty much give us support in anything that we try to do. And then in terms of having somebody dedicated to understanding the Eloqua system and understanding how you would use Eloqua to integrate with Salesforce, you do need somebody that's going to understand that in-house.
Side, so we work as well. I think we have the same CSM, I'm not sure, same customer success manager. We work with a third party called Dimension. So they do Eloqua implementation, lead scoring setup, and all those kind of stuff. And we exchange a lot with our peers. Meaning there is a strong user group of people. There is like, I don't know, last time there was a user group, it was like 120 people in the Bay. And we exchange a lot through this way to learn and to experiment again, because it's a lot about experiment. Do you need a full-time employee? Yes, that's a good question. It's an investment. Yes, doing marketing automation, it's not Eloqua, it's everybody. But you need to go, if you have lead scoring, just, I don't know, do you have lead scoring? Or it changed my life personally. It changed my company. You just take the return on invest. So instead of like being blind and chasing lead from A to Z, you are really spending time and prioritizing the time of your inside sales team. So it is whatever, it's worth it, really. It's really a big change. I know lead scoring was like, wow.
Yeah, I'd say that trend is something that we see across our client base at Eloqua. If you're doing basic stuff, you just want to do some light nurturing campaigns, you're great, you can run with that. If you really want to change a business and really alter the way that you predict revenue, alter the way that your sales teams run, and really come up with an analytical model for how you can optimize that revenue, yeah, you need the brains on it to think it through. But good question. Yes, sir.
A couple of questions about lead scoring. I take it when you started, you had a chart about how more continuous lead scoring gave you better, more granular results. So were you using a formula before that was only updated through workflow, or what was triggering it to only happen twice during the first time?
Yeah, so what was happening is that in our initial lead scoring world, we were only scoring people when they actually filled out a form. So when they filled out a form, there would be the workflow, and they would go through the lead scoring process. It would spit out a score. If they subsequently came in and filled out another form with us, it would do it again. But that was the only touch point at which the person would go through the lead scoring process.
Okay. So then when you improved that, you were doing batch rescoring based on data in Salesforce or data in Eloqua?
It's based on Eloqua data.
Okay.
So it's based on the data that's still coming in through our Eloqua forms, but also now based on the interest and activity data.
Clicks and activities and what they went and looked in total data. Do you believe that data is available in Salesforce and you could do the analysis, or is that really data that's in Eloqua only?
Well, we're able to do the analysis. We're able to pull the data from Salesforce, but we get it in Eloqua. So the Eloqua tracking that we have enabled on our site allows us to collect that data, and then we're able to feed it into Salesforce and then report on it and then run the statistical analysis on it. So that's why Eloqua has been so useful for us, is because it enables that data collection in the first place.
So last question is the rescoring code-based or an update-based?
Rescoring is it's a code-based program, I think. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Just one more comment. If you're in Salesforce, you only have the lead source kind of, or the title to be able to do scoring. You need to know how many times the guy went on your website, where he went, what he did, is he opening your email, clicking through your email. This is what lead scoring is based off, not only on Salesforce information. And I'm not sure everybody got it, but Eloqua has a copy of Salesforce, complete copies.
Hi, I have a question. I don't know if it's necessarily for Eloqua, but can you utilize some of this knowledge and then push forward to buying behaviors and patterns and push out marketing campaigns that way in the future? We didn't touch on buying behavior, but I would assume if you get some of this data, you could eventually model that. Does that make sense?
Not sure I understand the question 100%. You're saying, can you define future campaigns by looking at what people have done and guide your creative and your targeting based on the activity and the
right. Aside from seasonal activity, can you actually predict buying behavior? Does Eloqua have a tool for that?
Yes, in terms of understanding where a person is, maybe I'm not necessarily understanding the question perfectly, but understanding where a person is as a buyer in their buying process, and then saying, okay, well, likely, based on what we've seen, they're likely to end up as a buyer. Statistically, 30%, 60%. Absolutely, that's sort of the goal of really what you're doing with a lot of the lead scoring. I don't know if you wanted to.
Yeah, for example, what you're talking about, I think is lead nurturing. I'm not sure, but I'm going to take an example. If somebody comes to our website, super easy, we will get a thank you email. If you are based in California, it will come from Laura and Laura. We're going to give you a score. Let's say 10, which is low for us. And we're going to assume that if you're at 10, you need to be educated. So we're going to trigger a couple of emails. We're going to send one email with a white paper, another email with a webinar. But every time before we send this email, we're going to recheck your score based on if you came back to our website, if you came back to one of our blogs, which has not our branding. I shouldn't say this. And so we're going to score you. And assuming you get, before we send the second email, such as a webinar or whatever, you get a high score. Instead of getting this webinar education email, you're going to get a meeting request. So you can influence. This is like my inside sales do nothing, meaning they do a lot. But on this one, they just stand by and watch. It's working on its own. I don't know if it answered your question.
It does. I guess I'm just trying to figure out to take it to the next level, so you're not kind of just hitting the same people with basically segment your leads in a sense, so you know that type A customer or potential customer does this typically behaves this way. Yeah. Okay.
So you can do it's called lead nurturing based on scoring. It's a mix between scoring and lead nurturing. Lead nurturing is a bunch of emails you send to educate people.
Great. Thanks.
So that's okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I understand when you want to evaluate the return on investment, when you sell wedding pictures, it's easy to know that this customer purchased this package, and that's how they came through the pipeline. So you can go back to where it comes from. If you're in B2B, you have a long sales cycles, there's 10 people involved in the business process. The sales guy says, I knew Bill from 2 years ago, that's why he bought. It's not because of your marketing campaign. So how do you connect a long sales cycle like that with, okay, the company just bought $2 million worth of this product after 1 year of work. How do you say, oh, it's because of this and this and that in marketing?
Okay.
And they'll dispute that.
Yes, we have a long buying cycle. It's longer than what you've seen on our screen. So we are in the same kind of business. The way we measure it is every net new lead getting into our system get tied to a lead source and what we call a lead vehicle, which allow us to track and at least to understand high level where the guy came from. And in our process, when we have an opportunity, this lead is going to be converted to an opportunity, and it will be in Salesforce, it is the primary contact, and all the marketing information will be cut and imported or cut and pasted directly into Salesforce at the opportunity level. This is the way we track it. And after, if it goes for 2 years, we have the information. We have the information of the lead, and we have the information at the opportunity level. And this is where we connect the dots. Does it make sense, or does it look weird? And if you have 10 people involved in this deal, we will work based on the primary contact. That's a rule. You need to define a rule. You will be amazed if you start doing those stuff. How numbers make sense, really. You need to check your business, define whatever rules you feel confident with, and find a trend. And based on this, it will take time. Like every 2 months, you're going to think and say, this does not work. I need to check it. And you need a good data set. Kind of on my case, every time I do analysis, I try to go back 2 years to see if yes, no, it makes sense, or number lies all the time. So we do it.
You had mentioned that you track predictive indicators to determine a score, whether it's 10 points, 20 points, A, B, C lead, hot lead, cold lead. Does Eloqua at all track things that you may not be using in your calculations and suggest, hey, you were starting to see this behavior or this pattern, you may want to consider this as part of your lead scoring initiative?
No.
Okay. Or is there a way to get to the data to start to track that
So
sort of thing?
really, no, a very fair question. So what we do at Eloqua is track the data, model some of the influence. So being able to say there were all these touch points, to the last gentleman's question, on all of these 5 people in the buying committee, and here is the revenue that resulted. Here is the data, and present that data to you. Drawing the intelligence out of that, drawing the insight and saying, oh, that's really interesting. Every single buyer in the last quarter looked at this particular white paper or went through the online demo or downloaded the freeware. That's where you get folks like Nicholas and Alex involved to say, that's an interesting trend. Does the data correspond with expected reality? Okay, can we model that? So as software, we're just presenting dumb data essentially, and then
taking
allowing
it
the
from there.
brains on top to say, here's what we do with it.
It's another way to evaluate messaging, too. So, okay.
It's more about reinventing yourself. Like Alex was explaining as well, as I went through 2 phases on the lead scoring. Is you do your lead scoring, you check it out, and after it's okay, how can I improve this, and how can I play with it? It's really lots of cycles, reinventing yourself.
All right, any further questions?
You said something at the beginning that intrigues me a bit. You showed things that were going away, including a salesman. Have you seen that actually happen? Has anybody eliminated sales staff because of some of these things that are going down that path?
So no, but a really fair question. 2 trends that we do see that are really interesting and fairly recent. One of them is ABM's digital transformation study, and it was looking at executives' willingness to spend time with sales reps plummeting. I think over 80% of executives were reporting a significant decline in their willingness to spend time with sales reps. That is based on the fact that the information they could have got from that sales rep, they can get on Google now. So that's one trend, which really relates to your ability as a salesperson to get that initial naive discovery call. You as a salesperson, I always say if you can't add more value than Google on a sales call, don't go. You need to be able to provide that next level of insight. And the second trend that we're watching very closely that's very interesting is the dollar value of deals you can get with an inside sales team. I think historically we've looked at inside, over the phone, web conference, web demo type sales teams and thought, yeah, they're maybe in sort of the 10 to 15K range. Last couple of years, we've seen that number spike. And anecdotally, I don't have any statistical backup, but strong anecdotes on this. We're seeing a lot of 80, 90, 100K deals done purely with an inside team, which is really putting a lot of pressure on field forces to evolve their role in a way that justifies the inefficiency of face-to-face travel. So it's changing. I don't think you'll ever see the elimination of the relationship, which is so powerful, but it is definitely changing as a role. Well, I think you've got a revenue funnel at the end of the day. I mean, right now we have a marketing team and a sales team, but they are both tasked with generating revenue for the business, and it's a little bit of a historical anachronism that they are two fundamentally different departments, and I think you'll see that over time evolve and disappear. So I think we've run out of time. Thank you very much, and please join me in thanking my guests, Alex and Nicholas.